Another ungodly morning over here, and once again, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Plenty to talk about today, as I want to follow up on yesterday's short-term targets being hit on Bitcoin at about 12,000 bucks. Mr. Buteau heading up to actually some more long-term targets, which is quite interesting as well. And then, of course, traditional markets all in unison, so plenty to talk about and more. And now let's put the focus on the Krown Chaining application, which can be found at app.krownchaining.net. And what do we see over here? Oh, yes, that's right. It's my birthday, actually. So I should talk about the programs, which are all on sale for 20% off. No code is needed or anything like that. Just find them over here. And most importantly, if you are interested in these programs, make sure to watch the videos that accompany them right here, and actually Pine Script Mastery, and a new one for Jack as well, which I'll explain in just a second. But more importantly, I do want to get through this and definitely watch those videos if you are interested, because they're going to explain who they're for, who they're not for, how to get the most out of it, and that's going to go into much more detail than what I'm about to say right now. But there's a really, really important thing that I want to say before anyone ever considers any one of these programs ever, and that is this: make sure that you have enough time to actually invest in these sorts of things if you are going to undertake them, because it is going to take a concerted effort over a very long period of time with a lot of work on your own end, not just with these programs, which are not magic pills. But overall, you have to make sure that you have enough time to actually make the most out of it. Otherwise, you're just not you're not going to get much out of it, and you can't really expect good results after that. And what we've actually noticed for the people who do, really put a lot of effort into it, usually takes about a year to a year and a half for most people to come full circle. Some people never get there. Some people get there a little bit faster. I've seen 6 months or 4. I even saw a few guys be 3 or 4 months, kind of crazy. But I also suspect that they probably had a little bit more of training prior. So overall, watch the videos, make sure that's for you, but at the end of the day, the time component is a major thing. And of course, what you put into it is what you're going to get out of, as always. So if you're not the type of person who's going to really focus and sit down and really come back to this sort of material over time, take notes, and of course the trading journal as well, which is always like a major thing, then it may not be a good fit, as these programs are really, more, they're overkill for the average person. The average person does not need these, to be quite frank. The neophytes initiation to trading over here, though, that one is designed for complete beginners. So if you are maybe a little bit more on the edge, then perhaps that could be a better starting place. And we make it so that anyone who gets into this program anyways will get a discount on the other programs. So it always averages out to about the same price anyway. So no rush, of course. And again, watch the videos that accompany them, because that's going to be the best way to understand, what exactly is about. But I'll also spill the surprise as well for the Master Options program. That program is if maybe 5% of people on this channel should get or even relevant to the TA program, then maybe a tenth of that is relevant to the Master Options program. All right, so let's go check out also the Partners tab as well, as we do have another newly and very attractive, very handsome young man. Jack is actually joining up as well. He's got his own psychology program, which I'll let him explain in his own words right here. So again, check out the video if you are interested in such things. But I've seen great results from him. A lot of people have gotten, or a lot of people that I know have gone into his programs and had really good results. And that's the most important thing to me more than anything else. And definitely check it out as we can vouch for it. Anyways, moving on over here into the Krown Chain application, we see a lot of very interesting things. We see open interest breaking that $2.5 billion marker as Bitcoin does head up to the $12,000 region. Bitcoin dominance coming down quite significantly once again from 57%, another 0.5% down to 56.5%. And also we do see that the fear and greed index has headed up finally about 8 points to an 83 read from a 75. So overall, this is kind of the read that we were looking for on the open interest. Now this is still a little bit more experimental, as we don't necessarily have a full data set to be playing with just yet. Still need to see another year or two of price action history. But for now, we are seeing some interplays around that $2.5 billion marker. So that is going to play in today's analysis. Keep that number in the back of your mind's eye. And let's go check out the data tab as well. Is there anything of interest right now? The global funding rate is heading up a little bit, up to a 0.05%. Still not very, not very high, not a huge consideration. but is starting to trend up a little bit here. So that is somewhat interesting, but it's still not until it gets above about 0.1% where I actually do start to put a little bit more red lights on the current on the current trend. On this case, right over here on the fear and greed index, we are actually almost at the second highest, I believe. Yeah, we're at the second highest read that we've seen since we started recording this data. But of course, from what I've looked at over the last few years, usually what we do see is major pivots for the upside being thrown in like the mid to low 90s. And right now, for reference, we are just taking out an 83. So with that said, let's go check out the actual price action charts right here. Bitcoin closing a nice girthy daily above actually 11,900. And this does overall look pretty damn good to me. However, does the daily closure not mean that we're going to have a short-term pullback? Well, it looks to me like we are playing out a short-term pullback right now. And just looking at the daily, it would seem that anywhere around about 11,700 to 11,750 is where it can be looking on a pullback like this. And as long as Bitcoin essentially maintains above the $11,700 marker, I am overall looking for the daily to pull through here. Keep in mind that daily momentum oscillators are still looking more or less fine. Daily Stokes popping back up, getting out of the bearish control zone most importantly, and they will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin closes daily dildos above 11,350. So that also does kind of come up with another interplay here as well. If Bitcoin were to break below 11,700 or 750, especially on a daily, I actually would be looking for another move, probably back down to that 11,300-ish region and another bounce right there as well. And we'll look at the lower time frame soon too. But this also matches up with daily RSI, which essentially just having a bullish reset here as as far as I see this playing between the bullish control zone and the neutral zone, bouncing right off, smack dab right there in the middle and getting back above the exponential. I do look for this to trade a little bit sideways here and then give another try to the upside overall. An historical volatility percentile contracting through this whole way as well, lining up with our presumed areas, saying that we're very likely to break this range. Well, actually, probably in this next week, perhaps a little bit later this week or early next week, rather likely, as we are in the early days of September now. So still kind of drawing a nice little regression right through here, would suggest somewhere in this region, which we are pretty much filling out at this current moment in time. And I believe that was even further enhanced by the 4 hour. I think the 4 hour is getting a little bit better. And actually the 4 hour told us yesterday, yes, that's right. So we did say that around, mid or early to mid September, very likely to break it. And what do you know? We do have our first breaking of this regression right here. And so that is saying that we are kind of in the process of creating something new. And in this case right here, I do put I do think that Bitcoin actually tries again to the upside, and I do think that Bitcoin will break again to the upside. However, my opinion is not necessarily these sorts of things. I do not trade my opinion. And more importantly, I can now, with yesterday's closure, come up with some more appropriate areas. So I guess kind of already said this, but overall, I wouldn't really be looking for the low-term timeframes right now. They will kind of judge the pullback, but overall, this whole formation right here is going to be most reliant on the 12-hour and daily. And as long as we're closing daily dildos, especially above 11,750 and 12-hour dildos above 11,750 as well, I'm looking this for I'm looking for this to overall play it a little bit sideways here and then give another try to the upside into the low $12,000 region. This is also further verified by the Bollinger Bands over here too, which Bitcoin did actually close its first girthy green dildo above the median Bollinger Band, this brown moving average right here. That's just 20-cent moving average, and once again it's actually it got a flat slope for a little bit on the 29th and 30th of August, and then as of yesterday and today, starting to slowly pick that flat slope up to somewhat of a positive slope. And if we do close above it today, which by the way, guess where it is, 11,700, then it will get a positive slope very, 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 very likely. And at that point, I would be looking for a test to the top side of the daily Bollinger Bands, which is about 12,200-ish region. Looking at our other metrics over here, we do see that MACD is somewhat losing its luster. So it is saying that the downside momentum is waning here. Now, obviously, it's not crossed back up to the upside, and more importantly, I would not look at any sort of a MACD cross as just a signal in and of itself to get things right. It also needs to come alongside a breakage of a range. And in this case right here, have we broke a range? Well, we did actually break the 20 simple, yes, but we actually haven't seen this cross. So what I want to see next is I want to see another closure above about 11,900 or 12,000 even better, and this cross the upside, and that would be a damn good signal that we are likely to see another momentous drive to the upside, not just breaking the range, but resolving the range to the upside, initiating targets to 12.3, 12.5, 13,000, maybe longer term. And for right now, things do look more or less good. So again, the daily kind of shows all, especially on a longer term formation like this. However, on the very lower term timeframes, is Bitcoin looking unsteady here? Yes, indeed. In fact, the 4-hour is seeing momentum also just turn down pretty aggressively here too, and they will remain to the downside, by the way, as long as Bitcoin's closing 4-hour dildos below $12,000. So a nice area to be aware of right there. 4-hour RSI is looking like it wants to come down as well. Don't see any divergences either which way, but that still does suggest that we probably trade a little bit sideways here, more or less. Do we see anything on the 3-hour? 3-hour would also suggest that short-term momentum is to the downside as well. So I probably would be looking for very likely a swipe of 11,700 or 11,750, somewhere in that $50 range. Same thing with 3-hour RSI as well. It does look like it wants to maybe have a short-term pop here, but overall it comes down a little bit more. And I'd imagine that the 2 hours more or less the same. Yes, indeed, we do. We do see this, or we do see the same thing. 2-hour Stokes coming nice and down. Yes, we do have a trend line forming right here, absolutely. But we'll see how it holds. I guess no sense in kind of calling it before that actually happens. And then also, of course, the hourly as well. What do we see here? Yeah, momentum remains to the downside as long as we are below 11,950-ish region. But the hourly is actually coming down rather aggressively here too. And an hourly RSI, do we have anything of note? No, we don't have any hidden divergences. We don't have any regular divergences. It is just kind of floating there. So if I did have to call things right now, very, 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 very short term, might actually see a bounce from here. But perhaps, I mean, like that would be like micro term. Short term, though, I do think things come down a little bit lower, maybe 11.7, 11.750. But assuming that 11,700 holds, especially on a 12-hour or daily, I would look for things to just formulate some sort of a local low right there and head onwards and upwards over the next couple days. Keep in mind also that we are going to see, I believe, the 2-day close tonight, or are we going to see the 2-day close tonight? Yeah, we are going to see the 2-day close tonight. That is right. So any sort of a 2-day total closure above 11,800, I am bullish for another try to the upside into the $12,000 region. And that's going to be closing at 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. This is also coming along the side of very likely actually, no, we will not turn 2-day Stokes back up to the upside until we actually close above 12,000. That obviously will move once we do see the closure today. But for now, 12,000 is the magical number, 12,034 if you want to be super exact. However, most importantly though, we do see that the 2-day RSI is going to have a chance to get back above the exponential right here, and that would imply that we probably do see another move into the bullish control zone if that were to happen. And for that condition to be met, we can actually measure that one out. Let's see, it would be 62.25, and hold on, come on, oh damn it. Let's see, let's do 62.25. And let's see what it shows. So in order to meet that condition, Bitcoin would have to close the 2-day basically above, or basically right here or higher, 11,841 and 20 cents, by the way. So overall, a lot of things are formulating themselves. And I do want to remind myself right now as well that on the higher term timeframes for CMEs, which was really driving the buys coming into this week, that we do have that same sort of hidden bullish divergence present here and here, between this point and this point, rather aggressive one as well. So as long, is Bitcoin still playing that out? Actually, I would argue that we've already seen that move play out, or at least the easy move from that play out. So you know what, maybe I take back what I just said there. But overall, when you are looking at when you are looking at the major moving averages on this 2-day, what does stand out is that we have a full-on bullish display. We are above all major moving averages. I'm never bearish on an asset that is above all major moving averages like this, as they all have positive slopes. But again, that doesn't mean that very short term we can't see some downside. In fact, I do think that we are going to see some downside in the short term, probably back down to 11.7 or 11.750. But as long as that area is not broken, especially again on a 12-hour or daily, I do look for things to get picked up, maybe somewhere around there, and then try again to the upside above 12,000 actually. Now let's talk about what happens if we actually were to break that area, because well, it's possible to happen, of course, and and it's good to plan for things that have any sort of a probability of happening. And in this case right here, if we were to break 11,700 to the downside, could I use a 4-hour on this? You could use a 4-hour on this. I wouldn't trust it as much as a 12-hour or daily, just because that's what we're getting to the very end of this consolidation that we're looking at right here, no matter which way you cut it, with historical volatility percentile or also volume signature as well, which as you can see is really coming in, is coming into its own apex about the same time, which would imply the same sort of resolution date, basically basically this, maybe later this week, early next week, but maybe even today, 75% full is when it becomes very, 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 very likely to break. If that area were to break, I'd look for a very quick move down right here to 11,500-ish region. I do not think things would stop there, though. I think it would be extremely unlikely to see things stop there. Very likely a very short-term bounce here, maybe even all the way back up to 11,650 or 11,700, retest that region. But overall, as we said before, any sort of a 12-hour or daily total closure below 11.7, very likely we do see another move back down to 11.3, 11.350-ish region, and then we can use that area, or we can have the same implications as what we had for that area for the week prior, in the sense that I would be looking for a bounce there first and foremost. However, if Bitcoin does fail below this level, that level being about 11,300, I would look for a test all the way back down to the long-term range, to the downside at about 10,950 to 11,000 bucks. With that said, it is still has the same implications there as well for the long term. I would be looking for a big bounce off that area to begin with, and then if Bitcoin were to fail it, then I would be looking for big moves down. That this is the long-term range, just like this is the long-term range to the upside. I'd be looking for big moves down below 10,000, probably to 9,700 region, maybe even lower than that, with a big bounce along the way, once again at about 10,500. But until those conditions are met, I'm not really looking for even the medium-term downside, we'll call it, below 11.7 to happen. For right now, I do think that Bitcoin's more or less likely to try to pick itself up after maybe a short move down here. And then and then we'll come back and kind of see it. And I imagine that maybe by the time that I record a video tomorrow, we should have a much better idea of what's going on there, much more clarity, I suppose. Anyways, okay. All right. I think right now also it's very important to go over the high term timeframes once again too, just because they are rather fresh here, and they do obviously drive all of the long term biases. So looking at the monthly, of course, this is still continuation as far as I'm concerned. Yes, last month did kind of close as a little bit of a doji dildo right here. However, the second that we take out the high of that doji dildo at 12,473, this is on stamp by the way, so check your exchange, it would very likely imply a move back up into the low 13,000s or mid 13,000s. By the same token, if we do check out the low of last month's monthly dildo at 10,559.59, I kind of like we said earlier, very likely a move down to like 9,700ish region, maybe even lower than that, to like the low 9,000s, somewhere like 9,400ish region. So, somewhere around there would look about right. Do I think that that's what's happening right here? No, I don't really. But if Bitcoin were to take out that level to the downside, I suppose that's what I'd be essentially looking for. However, right now it looks a lot more poised to move to the upside. And just from a trending perspective, well, the trend is your friend, and this is about a 10-year long trend. And what do we have? We have a low, we have a high, we have a higher low. We closed on new highs above this high over here. That is continuation by definition. The trend remains, and if I had to call it right now, I do think that Bitcoin heads up to that mid $13,000 level over the next month or two. Momentum oscillators agree as well. Monthly Stokes getting back into the bullish control zone for the first time since April 2018, actually. It just briefly, it tested it in October 2019, but failed. Rejection right there. But after that, gets picked up right after rejection of the bearish control zone. Very strong read, and then boosts its way upwards and onwards. So I do think that it's going to spend some time within this region, over the next, over the coming months. Monthly Joule giving you a hot or long signal as well, ever since April, May of this year. And then also monthly RSI, it's looking very constructive here as well. This is technically an inverted head and shoulders with left head and shallow right shoulder right here. That's completely fine. And as long as we remain above the 59.10 region, that is overall valid and very likely does imply a move over the next couple of months into the into the bullish control zone, which we can actually look at. Hold on, let's see what price would be needed to close above in order to meet that condition. Yeah, 12,950. So very interesting there. But does match up with the monthly levels nonetheless. Also, let's take this one step further. Something that I only look at, a couple times a month, and that is the monthly. Hey, get over here, you monthly. There you go. Monthly accumulation distribution indicator. And guess what? We closed last month, and once again, we do have a positive slope on this. So the slope of this indicator is the only thing that I care about. Don't give a fuck if it's green or red. Means nothing. It's only Christmas. But what it does mean is that, well, we have a few things going on here. First and foremost, the slope of this is what typically governs the long term, and because we did close this one on that continued upward slope from last month, that would also suggest that this whole last month of price action, what we saw on a daily, is all to be considered reaccumulation, as that's what we saw within that region. So if this is reaccumulation, then what is typically going to be the next move? Well, well, a try to the upside. In this case right here on the monthly, we do see also that we had hit this long-term trend line, which actually governed our May lows of this year, the coronavirus dump lows. And this trend line has been connected with all of our major lows since July of 2015. That was this low right here, this more recent low right here in January 2019 at 3,100, and then this low right here at in like March or April, May of this current year. So overall, this has been a long-term trend line that has been working, and in the slope changes of this both to the upside and the downside, I pretty much got all of the long-term major moves as well. And right now, looks like it's nice and green and pointed to the north side. So overall, good. On top of that, we can take this one step further and go to a bi-monthly, which is essentially the same chart. And we have officially confirmed a continuation of an uptrend here on the bi-monthly with September opening just a day ago. And the reason why that is relevant is because, well, this confirms continuation. Low right here, high right here, higher low right here. We closed on a new high. Has to be continuation then. And what does that imply there? It would imply that, very likely targets up to mid to high 13,000s actually. I just like saying these sorts of things, but understand that when we're talking about a monthly or a bi-monthly, for the love of fucking God, it's not happening today, not happening tomorrow, but probably over the next few months. Realistically, when you do see a signal on a monthly, probably like 4 to 5 months out is when you're going to see that start to extrapolate itself. Same thing with a bi-monthly, except, multiply that maybe by 2. So overall, things do take time, but momentum oscillators here look more or less good as well. Bi-monthly Stokes moving to the north side, getting out of the bearish control zone. Bi-monthly RSI is actually going to be flirting with the bullish control zone with any sort of a closure above basically where we are right now, 11,837. So if those conditions are met on the next closure, well, we will see it get back into the bullish control zone. I think that's rather likely, and we will and probably after that, I'd be looking for moves up to around 14,000 bucks. Let's see what else do we have here on the daily. I feel like I'm missing a few things. Maybe volume profile will show the will show what we're looking at. And what do we see? Point of control, penis accretion, right around 11,700. So yes, I do stick with what I said earlier. As long as Bitcoin is closing 12-hour and dailies above 11.7, I'm overall bullish here. Short term probably does pull back around that region. If that area is broken, I would look for a relatively quick move to 11.5, small bounce there with continuation implied towards 11.350, 11.300-ish region. And then same thing there for the long term, governing the next move to about 11,000. And then, below there, we already talked about that, perhaps back down below 10,000 if that condition is met. But for right now, things look more or less good. And in this formation is very mature here as we do see this volume signature really start to tail off more aggressively. And again, would imply sort of the same sort of resolution date, basically later this week, maybe even today. Once these things are 75% full, which I would say was pretty much on the turn of September, they become very statistically likely to break. And in this case right here, it does say that, now's the time to be really paying attention, to those sorts of things. So let's go check out Mr. Buteroll now too, because he is doing all sorts of interesting things on the higher term timeframes. I believe we pretty much even we did hit our 490 target. Holy shit. Oh my God. That's impressive. That's super impressive. Wow. And of course, for reference, where are we now on Mr. Buteroll? We're hitting up towards a resistance that was built in on July 2018 before this absolutely catastrophic meltdown from basically 500 bucks, which just literally was straight down from there about 85% over the next few months to its ultimate low of about $75. So for right now, I would be looking for a pullback off this region. Yes, we got that. And probably even does maybe test all the way back down to like 450 bucks, but I am long-term bullish on this as long as it's above 450 bucks, especially on daily closures. I do think that it can very likely test back down around there, but for right now, the long-term targets have been met and everything. So I think it's really time to kind of be watching this one and let the weekly set in, let the daily set in. And technically speaking, it did close within this range right here. So do I think that it's going to retest 490 or even 500? Probably does. But I would be a little bit hesitant to call any sort of major continuation above this level until this condition is met, until there's a weekly closure above the top side of that range, which is about 490. If it does close a weekly above 490, I would extend targets all the way up here on a weekly schedule as well towards 420, or sorry, not 625, and then long term, very long term would be $800 actually. Yes, and these areas will become relevant as it does take out all of these levels. So for right now, does it look good on a weekly? Yes, of course it does. It looks very good on a weekly, in fact. But does that mean that the short-term time frames are just going to fucking green dildo this thing to the goddamn heavens? Probably not. In fact, I do think maybe another test of the highs right here, but overall trading sideways and probably down towards 450ish region, I do think is in order, and then we'll see if it wants to give another try to the upside. But for right now, I'd just be waiting on the weekly closure. We've hit all the targets here. I don't think that there's too much to be said about this anymore. I think it's time to wait. Euro dollar, I want to follow up on this one as well. Holy fuck, holy shit, is this one gonna save my call from like a month ago saying that we've very likely put in a major high right here at about 119 and a half? Maybe yes. With Friday closing in just a couple of days, if we were to close anywhere here or lower, I would be looking at this still as a major high, very likely being put in place. I do think, however, that that my analysis of this putting in a major high right here is greatly diminished by the way that we closed August. So I do think that it would be very much appropriate to flip around that bias, especially if we get a weekly closure anywhere above 119 and a half, and I would extend targets relatively quickly towards 121 and long term 1.25, actually 125. So for right now, this next Friday closure is absolutely critical. For now, it does look like we may have a top once again in place, but I don't feel comfortable calling it just yet, especially with the way that the monthly closed. I do actually kind of start to err a little bit more on the side of this one, breaking to the upside. However, until that condition is met, I'll hold on to my guns. I'll stick to my guns, I guess is the saying, and I'd be looking for this one to probably trade more sideways here, maybe a little bit down, but it's kind of hard to hate an uptrend like this. And in the way that monthly closed, it can afford to trade down again. But overall, this was a pretty damn good monthly closure here. It can trade all the way back down to like 118, and that wouldn't put too much pressure on it. Let's go take a look at traditional markets. Is Nasdaq heading on to new all-time highs? Yes, you're goddamn right. If you guessed new all-time highs, you'd be exactly right. And guess what? We've now hit, or we've almost hit. Holy fuck! Oh my god, man. This TA bullshit. Sometimes it actually does work. This is coming from someone who's been using TA to like govern his life for the last decade. It's like crazy, man. But overall, the 4.236 Fibonacci extension has been hit here. The reason why I'm surprised is not so much that like it hit a technical target there, as it has been kind of like fulfilling all these targets on the way up, but more or less the last echelons of a parabolic uptrend. They can get fucking crazy, man, and it's never a surprise, or I mean, it's always surprised me like how crazy things can get. So this one right here, is hitting that very long-term target. Do I think that we're going to pull back from this region? Yes, I do. Am I going to call like an ultimate high here today? No, I'm not going to do that, especially with the way that the weekly is looking. For now, though, I do think that short-term probably does play out some downside, probably back down to like 12,300. If this one does close on new highs today, then well, fair enough, man. Maybe we'll have to extend targets even further to the upside. But for right now, I'd be a little more hesitant on this one and probably be looking for a short-term pullback. And then I want to really see how the weekly closes. Depending upon how the weekly closes, if the weekly closes, especially here or higher, I'd have to be looking for new all-time highs coming in next week. But even closing above, let's say 12,200, I'd probably still be looking for some overall upside and some new highs to be printed on this. But for right now, we've literally hit all the targets that we've had set out for like months in advance. I think right now is the time to be a little bit more cautious on this one. Of course, like I said, with parabolic rallies, you never know where it actually ends. I've definitely learned my lesson with that in the past to not try to guess where the top is going to be. But for right now, looking overall fine, at least for the long term, with particular interest on the weekly close coming up soon. Okay, let me just get back on over there. All right, cool. And let's go check out E-mini futures for SPY as well. Same thing here, except this one we do have higher targets, I believe, still implied. Yeah, the 1.272 extension all the way at 3,700. I suppose is still relevant. The way that the last weekly closure, the way that the last weekly closed, it does imply that we probably will test a little bit higher here as well. The way that the the way that we closed yesterday's daily does imply that we will test higher here as well. So I'd be looking for new all-time highs on this one as well, with still that long-term target in mind. And short-term, it looks good as well. So short-term, medium-term, and long-term, I'm all bullish on E-mini futures for SPY. So probably do see some rotations going on here as techs take a little bit of sideways and maybe down, and the rest of the market gets to go up. What about Nifty 50 for the Indians out there? Yeah, so did bounce off of our next level at 11.3. I'd be looking for this one to pop back up towards 11.7, maybe even 11.750, and then we'll move on from there. I still do think that this one has some overall upside to go, but I'd still be using this as the next sort of governor, or the next sort of trigger. 11,715 on a daily closure, governing targets up to about 12,100-ish regions, somewhere around here. Yeah, 12,100 to 12,150. Yeah, that looks about right. Somewhere right around there. Golden Cross still makes me err on the side of upside, and all major moving averages are having positive slopes here, and trend is up. The trend is your friend. Now, if it were to break below the 30th of August low, which is 11,350, we'll call it, I would look for another move down to the 55, somewhere right around 11,050 bucks. But for right now, looking nice and staunch there. What else do we want to look at? Let's see. What does the rest of the market doing? Russell 2000 or Russell. Looking up, yes, we did get this one as well. I'll still be looking at this one going up towards 1608, 1610-ish region, and if it does break above there officially on a daily, especially, I'd be looking for a retest of 1700. This kind of like last major high before all of this nasty down action. But still, kind of far away, and this one's definitely lower on the rungs of the rotational markets. NYA, what are we seeing here? Very similar chart, very similar chart. Same sort of things implied with these same sort of areas. Except if this one does take out that trend line, I'd be looking for a move probably up to like 14,000-ish region. What about English people? They are coming down, as we spoke about last week. Was likely the weakest one in the world market so far that we've seen, and I'd be looking for this one to extend losses all the way down to 5750-ish region. And this one's looking obviously much different than all the other major indices from across world markets that we've looked at thus far. We could also look at Japan as well, and you'll notice that it looks quite different than this too. This is Nikkei 225 right here, very likely to test back up towards what is this, 23,400. All world markets pretty much look in unison except for England. You guys got a shitcoin for your world for your major Boris. What about triple Qs, new all-time highs? Yep. Again, this doesn't take a fucking genius to make money in this market right now. Don't confuse brains with the bull market, but enjoy your bullish brains in a bull market. There's a great saying also that a dumb bull will make more money than a smart bear in a bull market. No shit. Can't trap a bull in a bull market, Anyways, what about gold? Gold, a little bit of a rejection there. Very kind of similar chart to Bitcoin as well. And I'd be using the 1950 pivot right here in the same way that I'd be using the $11,700 pivot for Bitcoin spot. So, this one does look a lot more toppy than Bitcoin spot, to be fair, and that is technically a lower high right there too. So it is problematic. No divergences to be spoken about here, but overall, this one does look a little bit more cautious, I suppose. Momentum oscillators are good, though, I should say. Daily Stokes headed up and nice and erect. Do we have the trend line forming? Oh, Jesus, we actually had one like way back on over here. God damn, that goes all the way back to March 2019. Not bad, or no, even further than that. Whoa, but wait, there's more. July 2018. Not bad on a daily. This one right here, I can't really say too much about it. It's just rejecting the bearish control zone, which is more or less good, but overall, not following through on that price action is not necessarily the best sign. I don't have a strong opinion on this one. If anything, on the weekly, I would still be more or less bullish on the weekly. Looking for a move back up to 2,000 bucks, but the daily looks under pressure. So I think I'd hold a reservation on this one, or I'd hold up judgment on this one until we see Friday's closure. What about Link? Let's go check out some of the illustrious shitcoins here. Actually, Link is certainly not a shitcoin. It's the furthest thing from it. I don't know why it gets thrown into that whole array too. Weekly, I'm still looking for some upside here. Probably back up towards the prior high of 19 bucks. Daily looks good to me. Setting in a base around the 21. As long as it's above $15, I'm bullish on this one, and I'm looking for it to retest 19.5 to $20 over the next few weeks. Now, if it did break below $15 on a daily, I would look for a big meltdown all the way down to like 12, 12 and a half, 12 and a quarter. but that doesn't look like what's happening right now. Momentum oscillators on the daily are headed back up. And what else do we have to say about it? Daily RSI still looks like a bullish reset here. A little bit less obvious though, to be fair, but still. I do think that this one more than likely tries again to the upside with maybe another, well, 4 hour looks under pressure. 4 hour, I could very easily get bearish for a short-term move to the downside. Could very easily get bearish for a very short-term move to like $14, $14.50. But overall, as long as the daily holds those levels, I do think more up. If it breaks those levels, however, big, well, I shouldn't say big down, but a nice move down. 12 and a quarter, we'll call it. What else do we want to check out? Let's check out. You want to check out Litecoin? Not really. Well, it looks like this one wants to move to the upside as well. Probably another test back up towards 65 and a half. I'd be bullish on this one as long as it's closing dailies above 61. What else do we have? I guess we don't really want to look at all of the shitcoins today. Maybe Cardano. Everything else is rallying right now. Is this thing rallying versus Satoshis? Not so much. I actually do think that it could very easily rally up to 1,200 Satoshis. The fact that it's not falling through with the rest of the market is not a good sign. It looks like the DeFi coins are taking this one to home. Speaking of the DeFi coins, let's go take a quick look at the yams. The old yams. We did say probably more upside yesterday. Did we get some more upside? Actually, no. No more upside for yams. No. I don't have technical analysis to be done on something like this, man. It's way too young. If I did have to call some right here, I would probably be looking for another pop to the upside. To be quite honest with you, maybe back up towards what, $2.50, or sorry, that's not 2.5. That's this is being charted versus Bitcoin. Holy shit, man. 2.990. So this thing is worth like what, $30,000 or something? Oh my god, it's kind of crazy. Probably it's a very low supply or something, if I had to guess. But yeah, if probably does pop back up towards 290. And then I want to see it from there. But overall, like I've been saying, when you have an asset that's been trading literally for a few months, technical analysis I do not believe works on something like this. You need like 5 to 10 years. Look at this. On a daily, you barely even have a 21 exponential moving average. Like, that's not enough in my opinion. All right, we're 35 minutes into this. Let's start to go back onto Bitcoin. Let's go look at the ranges and come up with the probabilities. So again, I'm going to be using 11.7 for my bias buster to the downside, short and medium term. Very likely extrapolating move overall towards 11.3 or 11.350 with a bounce implied there. Now below 11.300, things do change once again. And but until those conditions are met, especially below 11.7, I'm looking for this one to very likely trade a little bit short term down, maybe to those levels, and then probably bounce from that level and give another test above $12,000 with continuation implied towards the prior high of 12.3, and well, if we take out that prior high, probably 13,000 and beyond. So let's go see what the probabilities say today. What does the math say? The magical maths. And let's get this one towards 11.7. Now, keep in mind, when we look at these probabilities, these ranges do not have the same implications. And actually, I'll even change this to 12,000. These do not have the same implications. 12,000 is more of a long-term area. 11,700 is more of a medium-term area. Okay, and let's see what they say. Actually, right now, the upside is favored on this metric too. 12,000 does have a 43.5% probability to close above on today's daily dodo. 11,700 does have a 33.23%. So both of them are relatively high. It would be relevant to think that it's very likely we actually see one of those conditions met even today. And basically like 3 tries, we'll see one of those things happen. Well, especially to the downside, to the upside, a little bit less than that, maybe like 1 out of 2.5 or something. Doing some bad mental math right now. Now I should say that Bali and Pigs moms are headed up right now, and also in the air correcting MA as well. And also I should say that all these indicators are actually on sale for Bali's. He has his own webpage. I have a link in the description below. I also have a discount code as well. And Jesus Christ, man, I'm like all over the place. I feel kind of bad not mentioning that earlier with my very own sale as well. But yeah, these are tools that I use every day and that I do hold dear. So overall, these things would suggest still probability in favor of the upside. And well, looking at the overall trend here, I would tend to agree. So basically what I can kind of synthesize my thoughts down into is, short term, does Bitcoin come back down to 11.7 or 11.750? Probably yes. I don't have a strong opinion on that. My only strong opinion on it is if it breaks or not. If it breaks below 11.7, especially on a 12-hour or daily closure, I'm looking for moves very quickly to 11.5, and then very likely extension after a small bounce there to 11.3-ish region. By the same token, as long as Bitcoin does not close 12-hour or daily lows below 11.7, I'm overall bullish on this price action, and looking for the daily to probably pick itself back up and try back again above 12,000, and perhaps beyond after that, which we'll get into perhaps tomorrow's video. So once again, I want to wish everyone well. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you on this Wednesday morning, and with that said, take care, and until next time.